She kicked his creeper out from under the truck, looked down at the black man covered in grease, and laughed. "Fix this engine, and I'll marry you," Victoria Ashford said, her voice dripping with the kind of mockery that only comes from people who've never been told no. Every mechanic in the shop froze. Every wrench stopped turning. But what this billionaire CEO didn't know, what nobody in that garage knew, was that this quiet single father, raising a daughter with a failing heart, had once designed engines that touched the stars, and her cruelty was about to cost her everything she thought she'd never need. Stay with me until the very end, and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The call came at 4:47 on a Tuesday afternoon, and it ruined Jack Morales' perfectly quiet day. "Eddie, you sitting down?" his receptionist said through the shop phone. "I'm standing under a Camry, Maria." "What is it?" Victoria Ashford's assistant just called. "They're towing in an Aston Martin Valkyrie. Complete electrical failure. Nobody in Seattle can fix it." Eddie slid out from under the car and sat up slowly. Victoria Ashford? The Victoria Ashford? The one who owns half the city, yeah. Why us? 5-star reviews, and apparently her own people couldn't get it done. Eddie rubbed the back of his neck and looked across the shop at Bay 7, where a pair of legs in faded jeans stuck out from under a 23-year-old Ford pickup. "Lord help us," he muttered. The Valkyrie arrived before Victoria did. When the flatbed lowered that car into the middle of the service bay, every mechanic stopped what they were doing. Midnight blue paint so deep it looked like liquid metal. One of only 150 in the world, worth more than every vehicle in the shop combined. Tommy Reeves, the youngest mechanic, actually whistled. "Don't touch it," Evie said. "Don't breathe on it. Don't even think about it too hard." 20 minutes later, the front door opened, and Victoria Ashford walked in like she was entering a courtroom where the verdict was already decided. Eddie had seen powerful people before. He'd fixed cars for tech executives and local politicians, and the Seahawks linebacker who tipped in cash. But this woman moved different. Every step was calculated. Every glance was an evaluation. He wiped his hand on a rag and extended it. "Jack Morales, I own the place. Welcome to—" She looked at his hand like he'd offered her a dead fish. "My car," she said. "Can you fix it or not?" Eddie let his hand drop. 30 years in the business had taught him when to push and when to let it go. "We're running diagnostics now. The electrical system on the Valkyrie is complex. Derived from Formula One technology. I don't need the Wikipedia entry. I need a timeline." "Best guess? 3 days, maybe 4. "Unacceptable. I need it tomorrow." "Ma'am, then you need a miracle, not a mechanic. Then find me someone who can deliver both." Eddie studied her for a long moment. He dealt with difficult customers his whole career. Rich people who thought their money bought them the right to skip the laws of physics. But something about this woman told him she wasn't going to leave until she got an answer she liked. "I got a new guy," Eddie said carefully. "Started 2 weeks ago. Doesn't talk much. Keeps to himself. But I've never seen anyone read a system like him. Not just cars, any system. It's like he sees through metal." "I don't care if he's a psychic," Victoria said. "Can he fix my car?" "Honestly, if anyone can do it on your timeline, it's him." "Then point me to him." Eddie hesitated. Something in his gut told him this was a bad idea. Not because of Marcus. Marcus could handle himself. But because people like Victoria Ashford didn't just bring their cars to places like this. They brought their chaos. "Bay 7, he said. "Name's Marcus Turner." Victoria Ashford walked through that service bay like she was conducting an inspection. Her heels hit the concrete with the rhythm of a judge's gavel. Men looked up, then quickly looked away. Bay 7 was in the back corner. The lighting was dimmer there, and for a moment, she thought it was empty. Then she saw him, or rather, saw his legs. Faded jeans with real holes from real work. Boots that had logged serious miles. He was underneath the old Ford pickup, and the sound of a ratchet echoed steady and sure. "Excuse me," Victoria said. Nothing. "Excuse me," she said louder. The ratchet kept turning. Victoria Ashford was not a woman who repeated herself 3 times. In her world, people jumped when she entered a room. They certainly didn't keep working on a truck that was probably worth less than her watch. She walked closer. "Are you deaf or just rude?" She kicked the creeper with the toe of her heel. Not quite a kick, but close enough. The ratcheting stopped. Silence. Then, slowly, the creeper rolled out. The first thing Victoria noticed was his hands. Black with grease, the kind that works into every line and crease. Working hands. Hands that had never seen a manicure or a desk. The second thing she noticed, he was black. And something behind her eyes shifted. A calculation. A categorization. The kind that happened so fast, most people pretended it didn't happen at all. The third thing she noticed was his eyes. Dark brown, almost black, and completely calm. They looked at her with neither hostility nor deference. They just looked. "Can I help you?" His voice was quiet, measured. "Are you Marcus Turner?" "I am." "Jack Morales says you're good with complex electrical systems." "Eddie says a lot of things." "Are you or aren't you?" Marcus sat up on the creeper. He didn't stand, didn't rush, just studied her with those unsettling eyes. "Depends on the system." Aston Martin Valkyrie. Complete electrical failure. Diagnostic computers can't find the fault. Victoria crossed her arms. "Can you fix it, or should I stop wasting my time?" For the first time, something flickered in those dark eyes. Interest. Maybe challenge. "The Valkyrie uses a hybrid system derived from the AMR Pro racing program," Marcus said. "The electrical architecture integrates with a V12 and the battery pack through a central control unit managing power distribution across 17 separate systems. When it fails, it's usually not the system itself. It's a cascade effect from a single point of failure that diagnostics miss because they're looking at the trees instead of the forest." Victoria blinked. That was more technical precision than she'd gotten from the dealership's entire engineering team. "So that's a yes?" Marcus looked past her at the Valkyrie sitting in the middle of the bay. His eyes traced its lines, like he was reading a blueprint. "Maybe," he said. "Let me look at it. You want it tomorrow?" "I have a dinner meeting I cannot miss. I will not arrive in anything less than my own car." "Must be a real important dinner." "Excuse me?" "The car, the attitude, the assumption that physics bends to your schedule." He shook his head slightly. "You must be really, really important." Victoria's voice dropped to freezing. "I don't think you understand who you're talking to." Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Dynamics. Net worth north of $2 billion, depending on stock price. Youngest woman to helm a Fortune 500 company. Known as the Ice Queen by Business Insider. The Barracuda by your competitors. Marcus recited it like a grocery list. "Did I miss anything?" "How do you Google? Your vanity plate isn't exactly subtle." Victoria looked back at her car. The plate read VA-1. She almost smiled. Almost. "So you know who I am," she said. "Then you know disappointing me is bad for business." "Is it?" Marcus tilted his head. "You gonna leave bad Yelp reviews? Get me fired?" "I could." "You could, but you still won't have your car tomorrow." He stood up, and Victoria realized he was tall, maybe 6'1", lean and solid. "Here's the thing about machines, Ms. Ashford. They don't care about your net worth. They don't care about your meetings, or your deadlines, or your threats. They work on their own timeline. Try to rush them, they break. Sometimes permanently." So that's a no? That's a let me think about it. Marcus walked to the Valkyrie, popped the hood, and stared down into an engine bay worth more than most people's houses. He stood there for a long time, reading it like a man reading sacred text. If I do this, he said without turning around, if I try to meet your timeline, I'm not making promises. Maybe I find it in 6 hours. Maybe I don't find it at all. Maybe I find it and the part I need won't arrive until next week. But you'll try. I'll try. He closed the hood with more care than she'd ever seen anyone handle her property. Then he turned and something different was in his eyes. A challenge. But I have a condition. Victoria stiffened. What? If I fix this car, really fix it so it runs perfectly, you have to do something for me. Name it. I'll tell you when I fix it. That's not how negotiations work, Mr. Turner. It is when you're the one who needs something. They stared at each other across the hood of the Aston Martin, and Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not intimidation. She'd been past intimidation since she was 25. Something stranger. Someone was treating her like a person instead of a checkbook. She should have walked away. Should have called a tow truck, taken the car to the dealership in San Francisco. Should have reminded this nobody mechanic in his dirty jeans that she didn't negotiate with people who worked on their backs under worthless trucks. Fine, she heard herself say. Fix the car. Name your price later. Marcus nodded once, walked to his tool cabinet, and came back with a tablet and a small diagnostic laptop. He got to work without another word. Victoria stood there, uncertain. She wasn't used to being dismissed. Ms. Ashford. His voice stopped her at the door. What? This is going to take a while. The waiting room's not comfortable. You should go home. I'll decide what I should do, Mr. Turner. Suit yourself. 3 hours later, Victoria was still there. She'd taken 17 calls, answered 43 emails, approved 2 acquisitions, denied 3 budgets, and fired a regional manager who missed his quarterly numbers. She'd done more work from that plastic chair than most executives did from corner offices. But she hadn't left. Through the smudged glass, she watched Marcus work. He moved with a kind of quiet efficiency that made everything look simple. No frustration. No wasted motion, just steady, methodical problem-solving. At one point, Eddie brought him a sandwich and coffee. Marcus ate without looking away from his diagnostic screen. At another point, 2 mechanics drifted over to watch. They talked. They gestured at the engine bay. After a few minutes, they walked away shaking their heads. Whatever Marcus was doing, it was beyond them. The sun had set by the time Marcus straightened up, rolled his shoulders, and closed the hood. Victoria stood up so fast her phone nearly hit the floor. When he walked into the waiting room, he looked tired. Not defeated. Tired. New grease across his forehead. Hands blacker than before. Well? Victoria asked. Found it. Corroded ground connection in the battery junction box, creating intermittent voltage drops that cascaded through the control unit. The diagnostics couldn't see it because it only manifested under specific load conditions. English, Mr. Turner. Rust on a wire. I cleaned it, reinforced it, tested it. Your car will start. Show me. They walked back together. The shop was mostly empty now. The other mechanics gone home to families and dinners and lives that didn't involve billion-dollar automotive systems. Marcus opened the driver's door and gestured for her to sit. Victoria slid behind the wheel. This car fit her like armor. She knew every curve, every sound, every response. She pressed the start button. The engine roared to life, a deep, visceral bellow that climbed to a howl, then settled into a purr so perfect it was almost music. Victoria felt it through her whole body. Her eyes stung and she blinked hard. It was just a car. just metal and wires and exotic materials. But it was hers, and it was alive again. She turned it off and looked at Marcus, who stood nearby with his hands in his pockets. "It's fixed," she said. "It's fixed. You have something you want from me. Name it." Marcus was quiet. Then he smiled, actually smiled, and it changed his entire face, made him look younger and somehow sadder at the same time. "Do you remember what you said when you first walked up to me?" Victoria tried to recall. It felt like days ago, not hours. "I asked if you could fix my car. Before that, when I was under the truck, when you kicked my creeper." "I didn't kick it. I nudged. You asked if I was deaf or just rude." His voice was quiet but firm. Like those were the only two explanations for why a black man under a truck wouldn't jump when a white woman in expensive shoes told him to. The words landed like a slap. Victoria opened her mouth and closed it. "Do you know why I was under that truck?" Marcus continued. "The one worth less than your watch?" Victoria looked down at her Patek Philippe. He was right. "Why?" "Because the guy who owns it is a single father, works 2 jobs, construction during the day, security at night. That truck is 23 years old, ugly, leaks oil, transmission slips, but it's paid for. And he needs it to get to work. And he needs to get to work because he has a 7-year-old daughter who needs school clothes and groceries and a roof." "That's charitable, Mr. Turner, but—" "He paid me $300 cash this morning. Not enough to cover parts. Nowhere near labor. But I'm fixing his truck anyway. Because that's what you do when fixing something means the difference between a man making rent or sleeping in his car with his kid." Marcus looked at her steadily. "And while I was underneath that man's truck, doing work that matters, you walked up and kicked my creeper because I didn't respond fast enough for your schedule. You looked at me, my skin, my clothes, my hands, and decided I was something you could kick." The silence between them was suffocating. "I don't want your money," Marcus said. "I don't want a favor. I don't want a job." "Then what do you want?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. Held it out. Victoria looked down. It was a spark plug. Old, corroded, dead. "What is this?" "Keep it, as a reminder." "Of what?" "That even the most expensive machine in the world breaks down to the same basic principles. Fuel, air, spark. Remove any one of those, and it doesn't matter if you spent $3 or $3 million. It won't run." He closed her fingers around the spark plug. "Same with people, Ms. Ashford. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how powerful, how untouchable you think you've made yourself. We're all just trying to keep our engines running, every single one of us, even the ones under the truck." Victoria stood there holding this worthless piece of metal. She wanted to throw it back at him, wanted to tell him he was naive and sentimental, and that the world didn't run on philosophy. It ran on power. But something in his eyes stopped her. Not anger, not judgment, something worse. Understanding. Like he'd already figured out what it had taken her 42 years to almost see. That she was the most broken machine in this whole shop. "How much do I owe you?" she managed. $600, parts and labor, shop rate." She almost laughed. "I was prepared to pay 10 times that." "Then donate the difference," Marcus said. "Or don't. It's your money." Victoria pulled up her payment app and sent Eddie's shop $6,000. $600 for the repair. The rest is for the man with the truck. Tell him it's from an anonymous donor." Marcus's eyes widened slightly. "And Mr. Turner, the next time someone rudely interrupts your work, you should probably say something. The world has too many people like me, and not enough people like you." She got in her Valkyrie, started the engine. It roared perfectly, just like he'd promised, and drove out of that garage without looking back. But that night, alone in her penthouse, 63 floors above a city she supposedly owned, Victoria Ashford pulled the spark plug from her coat pocket and set it on her desk. She stared at it for a long time. Fuel, air, spark. She tried to remember the last time all three had been present in her own life. The last time she'd felt anything besides the cold hum of ambition and the hollow satisfaction of winning. She couldn't. She picked up her phone and drafted an email to her assistant. Find out everything you can about Marcus Turner. Employment history, education, family, everything. Then she deleted it. Some mysteries, she decided, deserve to remain unsolved. Some people deserve to keep their secrets. She set down her phone and picked up the spark plug again, turning it over in her fingers. This worthless piece of metal that a mechanic in dirty jeans thought was more valuable than anything she could offer. And for the first time in 15 years, since the day she'd sworn she would never let another human being make her feel small again, Victoria Ashford wondered if she'd been measuring everything with the wrong ruler. She didn't sleep that night. She sat in her penthouse surrounded by everything money could buy, holding a dead spark plug and wondering which element she'd been missing. Across town, Marcus Turner finished the single father's truck, locked up the shop, and drove home in a 10-year-old Honda Civic with 160,000 miles and a booster seat still buckled in the back. He was thinking about a woman in expensive shoes who'd looked at him like he was nothing, and then, for just a moment, like he was something she couldn't figure out. He hoped their paths wouldn't cross again. People like Victoria Ashford were beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. Engineered for speed and power, but prone to catastrophic failure when something small went wrong. Marcus had enough broken things in his life. He pulled into the cracked driveway of a small rental house, opened the door quietly, and walked down the hall to a bedroom with a nightlight shaped like stars. His daughter lay sleeping, her chest rising and falling with a rhythm he'd memorized like a prayer. He stood in the doorway and watched her breathe. The monitors by her bed glowed green, heart rate steady, oxygen normal. Everything the machines could measure was fine. But machines couldn't measure what Marcus knew, that his 8-year-old daughter's heart was held together with medication and hope and borrowed time. "Night, baby girl," he whispered. Zoe stirred, clutched her one-eyed teddy bear tighter, and settled back into sleep. Marcus closed her door softly and went to bed. He dreamed of engines that wouldn't start, women with ice in their eyes, and a little girl who needed her father to hold the world together with nothing but grease and love, and the stubborn refusal to let go. 3 weeks passed before Victoria thought about the spark plug again. Not because she'd forgotten. Victoria Ashford never forgot anything, especially not things that made her uncomfortable. But because thinking about it meant thinking about him. And thinking about him meant answering questions she'd spent 15 years avoiding. But the universe doesn't care about avoidance. It forces confrontations, especially the ones you're running from. She was mid-sentence in a video conference with her board of directors, walking them through the Taipei acquisition numbers when she caught it. Faint at first. Chemical. Wrong. Like burning rubber mixed with something sweet and toxic. She paused. Her nose wrinkled. "Ms. Ashford?" One of the board members leaned toward his camera. "Are you all right?" "Fine," she said automatically, but the smell was getting stronger. Then her assistant burst through the door without knocking. Jennifer never did that. Not unless something was very wrong. "The parking garage," Jennifer gasped. "Your car!" Victoria was out of her chair before the sentence ended. The board found themselves staring at an empty screen, which was both surprising and completely expected from their CEO. She took the elevator down 30 floors, her heart slamming in a way that had nothing to do with exertion. The smell got worse the lower she went. When the doors opened on the parking level, she saw smoke, thin, gray, hanging in the air like a warning. Her Valkyrie sat in its reserved spot. Wisps of smoke curled from under the slightly open hood like a dying breath. The security guard, Thompson, stood nearby with a fire extinguisher, looking like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. "I didn't touch anything, Ms. Ashford," he said quickly. "But I called 911 and—" "Open the hood." "Ma'am, I don't think—" "Open it." Thompson popped the hood. The smoke thickened, then dissipated. Victoria stared down at melted plastic, scorched wiring, and the remains of a small fire that had burned itself out. She pulled out her phone and called the last number she'd sworn she wouldn't call. He answered on the third ring. "Morales Automotive, this is Marcus." "My car is on fire." A pause. "Ms. Ashford?" "It was on fire. Now it's just smoking. Something burned. The wiring, the plastic, I don't know. But something definitely burned." "Where are you?" His voice went sharp, focused. A different man from the one who'd spoken to her in soft, measured tones 3 weeks ago. "My office building, underground parking. I haven't driven it since yesterday." "Don't touch anything. Don't let anyone near the battery. What's the address?" She gave it. She could hear him already moving, keys jingling, a door closing. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. "Keep people away from it." "Is it dangerous?" "Depends on what caused it. If it's electrical, probably not. If it's the fuel system or the battery pack, maybe." He hung up. Victoria stood there in the garage with smoke in her lungs and realized she'd just called a man she'd met once, for 3 hours, to come save her car. Not her personal mechanic, not the dealership, not her insurance company. Him. Marcus arrived in 18 minutes. She'd been counting. The Honda pulled in, and he got out carrying a toolbox and a diagnostic tablet. Clean shirt today. No grease on his hands. But those same steady eyes. He walked straight past her to the car without greeting, without small talk, and stopped dead when he saw the engine bay. "Shit," he said quietly. "That bad?" "That's not good." He leaned in, pulled a flashlight from his pocket, and started tracing wires with the focus of a surgeon. Victoria watched him work, remembering this intensity. The world could be ending, and Marcus Turner wouldn't notice. Not when there was a system to understand. "This shouldn't have happened," he said after several minutes. "The work I did 3 weeks ago was nowhere near this section. This is the climate control harness. Completely different system. So what caused it?" He straightened, wiped soot on his jeans. Then he pulled out his phone and took photographs. Close-ups, multiple angles, methodical. "What are you doing?" Victoria asked. "Documenting." He took one more shot, zoomed in on something she couldn't see. "Ms. Ashford, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "All right." "Has anyone else worked on this car since I fixed it?" "No, just routine maintenance. Tire pressure, washer fluid. The building has a service contract." "Who does the maintenance?" "Some company. I don't know which one." She paused. "Why?" Instead of answering, Marcus turned his phone around and showed her one of the photos. A close-up of charred wiring. "See these 2 wires? Different systems. One's climate control, one's the headlight circuit. They should never touch. They're insulated. They're routed separately. They're in different harnesses. But they're touching." "They're not just touching, Ms. Ashford. They're stripped. Someone removed the insulation and twisted them together." The words hung in the air like the last of the smoke. "Are you saying someone sabotaged my car?" "I'm saying someone modified it in a way that would definitely cause an electrical short, which would definitely cause a fire, which would definitely total the vehicle, or kill the driver, if it happened at highway speed." Victoria had survived hostile takeovers, death threats from activists, hate mail from shareholders who thought a woman had no business running anything. But she'd never had someone try to kill her with her own car. "I need you to fix it," she said. "Ms. Ashford, this isn't a repair job. You need to call the police. And tell them what? That maybe someone tampered with my car? That you think some wires were stripped, but you're not sure? Victoria crossed her arms. They'll write a report and file it in a drawer, and nothing will happen. This is attempted murder. I know what it is. Can you fix the car? That's not the... Can you fix the car and figure out how someone did this? Because once we know how, we can figure out who. I'm a mechanic, not a detective. You're the only person I trust right now. The words came out before she could stop them, and they surprised them both. Victoria Ashford didn't trust people. She managed them. She leveraged them. She outmaneuvered them. Marcus studied her for a long moment, and Victoria saw something she hadn't expected. Concern. Not for himself, not for the car. For her, like she was a person who might actually be in danger, rather than a walking checkbook who could buy her way out of anything. Please, she said quietly. The word felt foreign. Victoria didn't beg. She demanded. She ordered. She negotiated. But this man was looking at her like she mattered, and it made her want to be someone who deserved that look. Marcus sighed. I'll tow it to the shop. I'll fix it. I'll document everything I find. And then you're calling the police. Agreed. And Ms. Ashford, until we figure this out, you might want to find other transportation. I can fix the car. I can't protect you from whoever did this. I can protect myself, Mr. Turner. Can you? It wasn't a challenge, just a question. Because the kind of person who does this doesn't stop because it didn't work the first time. Victoria thought about her penthouse with its security system, her office with its panic buttons, her life with its carefully constructed walls, and she thought about who hated her enough to commit murder. The answer was more people than she wanted to admit. I'll be careful, she said. Marcus nodded, but he didn't look convinced. He handed her a business card. White stock, just a name and phone number, nothing else. Call me if anything happens. Anything strange, anything suspicious, anything that makes you nervous. Day or night. I mean it. Why do you care? Victoria asked. I was rude to you. I kicked your creeper. I treated you like you existed to serve me. So why do you care if someone tries to kill me? Marcus looked at her with those steady eyes that saw too much. Because everyone deserves to be safe, Ms. Ashford. Even people who kick creepers. Then he walked back to his Honda and drove away, leaving Victoria in a parking garage that smelled like smoke and something she couldn't name. Something that felt dangerously close to guilt. 2 days later, Marcus called. I need you to come to the shop. What did you find? Just come, please. The please was what convinced her. She canceled her afternoon and took an Uber across the city. When she walked in, Eddie was behind the counter. He looked at her with something that might have been sympathy. Bay 7, he said. Fair warning, he's been up all night. She found Marcus sitting on the floor next to her disassembled Valkyrie, surrounded by parts and wiring and every diagnostic tool the shop owned. Eyes red-rimmed, hair going every direction. The particular exhaustion of a man running on caffeine and obsession. Someone hacked your car's computer system, he said without preamble. Not just the electrical, everything. GPS, diagnostics, entertainment, climate. They had complete access. Your location, your speed, your driving patterns. They knew exactly when you drove, where you parked, how long the car sat idle. They timed the sabotage perfectly. Victoria sat down on a rolling stool before her legs could give out. There's more, Marcus said. I found spyware, actual surveillance software. Someone's been tracking you for weeks, maybe months. Can you tell who installed it? No, but whoever did it routed the data through your own company's IT infrastructure. That hit like a punch. Inside job. Someone with access to your systems, your schedule, your building. Someone close to you. Victoria thought about her COO, Grant Whitfield. 3 years of pushing for more control. 3 years of telling the board she was too aggressive, too volatile, that the company needed steadier hands at the wheel. "I have an idea who," she said quietly. "Good. Tell the police." "Not yet. Not until we have proof." She looked at him. "Will you help me?" "Help you how?" "Figure out who did this. Why? How to stop them. You see systems, Marcus. You understand how things connect, how they break, how to trace failures back to their source. Help me trace this one." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "On one condition." "Name it." "Tomorrow Saturday. Shop's closed. Come by at 2. "Why?" "You'll see. That's the condition. You show up. No questions." Victoria wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers, but something in his eyes stopped her. The same thing that made her call him when her car was on fire. "Fine," she said. 2 o'clock. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling. Victoria changed clothes 4 times, which infuriated her. She finally settled on dark slacks and a cashmere sweater, then spent 20 minutes being angry at herself for caring. She pulled up to the shop in her insurance loaner and found it closed. Marcus's Honda out front. Through the windows, nothing. The door opened and Marcus was there. He looked genuinely surprised. "You came." "You asked me to." "Yeah, but you're Victoria Ashford. I figured 50-50 you'd send an assistant." "I don't have emergencies on Saturdays." A lie, but a small one. "Come on, we're out back." He led her through the empty shop and out a back door to a small parking lot she hadn't known existed. Cracked asphalt, chain-link fence, a weathered picnic table. And sitting at that table was a little girl. Victoria stopped walking. She was maybe 7 or 8. Dark skin, dark hair in a slightly crooked ponytail. Eyes the same deep brown as Marcus's. Purple hoodie with a unicorn on it. Pink sneakers that lit up when she kicked her feet. A workbook and colored pencils scattered in front of her. But it was her face that made Victoria's chest tighten. Pale underneath the brown. Shadows under her eyes no child should carry. The face of someone who understood hospitals and fear in ways that should be reserved for adults. "Zoe," Marcus said gently. "This is Ms. Ashford, the one I told you about." The little girl looked up, and her eyes went wide. "You're the princess with the magic car." Victoria blinked. "I'm the what?" "Daddy said you have a car so special only he could fix it, like a magic spell." Zoe's voice was soft but sure. "That means you must be a princess. Only princesses have magic cars." "Zoe has very specific logic," Marcus said, and there was so much love in his voice, it hurt to hear. "I'm not a princess," Victoria said automatically. "That's what a princess would say if she was hiding," Zoe countered. Then she coughed. Wet, rattling, wrong. Marcus was beside her in an instant. Medical bag from under the table. Stethoscope. Checked her breathing, her pulse, studied her face with the intensity of an ER doctor. "Scale of 1 to 10? He asked quietly. 3, maybe 4. I'm okay, Daddy." "You promised you'd tell me if it gets to 5. "It's not 5, I promise." Zoe looked at Victoria and smiled, trying to be brave. "I have a broken heart. Not sad broken, actually broken. The doctors say it doesn't pump blood right, so sometimes I get tired and cough, and Daddy worries even though I tell him not to." Something twisted deep in Victoria's chest. "That sounds scary," she managed. "Sometimes," Zoe admitted. "But Daddy says brave people are just scared people who keep going anyway, so I'm being brave." Marcus finished his check and put the stethoscope away, but his hand stayed on Zoe's shoulder. Constant contact, like he needed to feel her there to know she was real. "Why don't you show Miss Ashford what you're working on?" he suggested. Zoe brightened. I'm making a list of the best things in the world. Want to see? Before Victoria could answer, the little girl pulled her workbook closer and read aloud in the careful way of children still learning that words on paper have sounds. Number 1, Daddy. Number 2, Mr. Patches. That's my bear. Number 3, chocolate ice cream. Number 4, when the rain stops and you can see the sky. Number 5, people who fix broken things. She looked up at Victoria. What would be on your list? The question was so simple, so sincere, that Victoria couldn't speak. What were the best things in her world? Her company? Her net worth? Her view? None of those answers felt right with this child looking at her. I don't know, Victoria admitted. I've never made a list like that. Zoe looked genuinely shocked. Never? Never. That's sad. The little girl tilted her head, studying Victoria with her father's intensity. Everyone has good things. You just have to look harder. Marcus led Victoria to the far side of the lot, out of Zoe's earshot, but within sight. He positioned himself so he could see his daughter at all times. She's been checking your exits since we got here, he said quietly. Every 30 seconds, she scans the fence line, the gate, the back door. She's mapping escape routes. Victoria watched. He was right. Zoe's eyes kept flicking up, scanning, then returning to her coloring. She's been doing it since she was 5, Marcus said. After the second time she coded. First time she was 4, I was at work. Got the call and drove 90 miles an hour to the hospital. Found her hooked up to machines I couldn't understand. Doctors said they almost lost her. His voice was carefully controlled. The control of a man who'd had practice not falling apart. Second time she was 6. Woke up in the middle of the night not breathing right. By the time I realized and called 911, she'd passed out. He rubbed his face. After that, she started checking exits, planning, taking control of the only thing she could control, knowing where to run. But you saved her, Victoria said softly. Both times. Almost too late, both times. His jaw tightened. That almost lives in my head every day. Every time she coughs. Every time she looks pale. I wonder if this is it. If this is the time I don't make it. She needs a transplant. It wasn't the question. Marcus looked at her. Eventually, her cardiologist says stable for now. Could be years. But stable is relative when your kid's heart is basically held together with medication and hope. Is that why you became a mechanic? Marcus let out a long breath. I used to design guidance systems for satellites. Aerospace contractor in California. Good money, interesting work. All the prestige you could want. But the hours were brutal. And after Danny died, after I was alone with Zoe and her heart, I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't miss doctor's appointments for meetings. Couldn't work 80-hour weeks when my daughter needed me home. He shrugged, a gesture that tried to minimize something that had cost him everything. So I moved back to Seattle. Took some mechanical courses. Turns out aerospace electrical engineering translates pretty well to car systems. Hours are better. Pay is worse. But I'm there when Zoe needs me. That's what matters. Victoria thought about her own father. A man who chose his company over his family every single time. Who died of a heart attack at 63, alone in his office, surrounded by contracts, instead of people who loved him. She thought about the empire she'd built in his image. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you asked me to help you find who's trying to kill you. And I will. But I need you to understand why. Tell me. It's not for money. Not for excitement. Not even because I particularly like you. He almost smiled. No offense. None taken. I'm doing it because Zoe checked your exits, Victoria. She looked at you, decided whether you were a threat, and went back to her homework. She's 8 years old. She shouldn't have to do that. His voice went fierce. She should get to be a kid who thinks about ice cream and lists of good things. And every time someone with power gets hurt by people who think they can get away with it, it makes the world more dangerous for everyone, including kids like her. Victoria looked at Zoe, who had abandoned her homework and was coloring with deep concentration, tongue poking out between her teeth. "I want her to grow up believing good people can win," Marcus said. "That broken things can be fixed. That everything wrong in this world can be made right if someone just cares enough to try." They stood in silence. Then Victoria said, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For being the kind of person who made your daughter check my exits." She looked at Zoe, then back at Marcus. "For not having a list of good things. For taking so long to realize that maybe I've been fixing the wrong problems my entire life." Marcus didn't say anything for a moment. Then, "Make a list. Start with one good thing. Just one. It's harder than you think." "Zoe," he called. "Come here for a second." The little girl ran over, actually ran, which seemed impossible for a kid with a failing heart. "Ms. Ashford needs help with something," Marcus said. "Can you be her helper?" "What kind of help?" Victoria crouched down, ignoring the voice in her head about her cashmere sweater on dirty asphalt. "Your dad says I should make a list, like yours, but I don't know where to start." Zoe considered this with absolute seriousness. "What makes you happy?" "I don't know." "What do you think about when you're sad?" "Work, mostly." "That's not good things. That's distraction things." Zoe shook her head like a tiny professor. "Good things are things that make your heart feel warm, like when Daddy hugs me, or when Mr. Patches smells like home." "I don't think I have things like that." Zoe reached out and grabbed Victoria's hand. Just took it. Small, warm, impossibly fragile. "Close your eyes," Zoe said. "I'll help you find something good." Victoria closed her eyes, feeling ridiculous and vulnerable and something she couldn't name. "Think about the last time you felt safe," Zoe said softly. "Not powerful, not important, just safe." Victoria's mind went backward, past boardrooms, past victories, past 15 years of armor and ice, all the way back to a kitchen on a Tuesday morning. She was 6. Her mother, dead now for 20 years, was braiding her hair before school. The gentle tug of fingers through tangles. The smell of perfume. A song hummed softly. "I'm going to make sure you're the strongest girl in the whole world," her mother had whispered. "So strong that nothing can ever hurt you." Victoria opened her eyes. They were wet. "Did you find something?" Zoe asked. "Yeah," Victoria whispered. "I found something." "Good. That's number 1. Zoe squeezed her hand. "Now you just need to find more." The little girl let go and ran back to her coloring. Victoria stayed crouched on the asphalt with tears on her face, and Marcus looking at her with something that might have been understanding. "She's remarkable," Victoria said, standing up. "She is, and terrifying." Victoria pulled out her phone. Nearly 4 o'clock. "What's the plan for finding who did this?" The hack was sophisticated, required inside access, someone who knows your routines, your security, your vehicle. Marcus's voice shifted back to analytical. "Who has access to your car?" "Me? Parking garage attendants? The maintenance company? My driver, but I rarely use him." "Who knows your schedule?" "My assistant, security team, executive team." "Who wants you gone?" The question poisoned the air between them. Victoria started naming names. Marcus typed them into his phone. Former executives she'd pushed out, competitors she'd crushed, activists, ex-lovers who'd ended badly. The list grew to 37 names. "That's a lot of people who want you dead," Marcus said. "Welcome to my life." He pocketed his phone. "I need to get Zoe home. I'll work on the car tonight. Look for more evidence. And you need to be careful. No patterns. Mix up your schedule, your routes. Don't tell anyone where you're going before you go. That's already my life. Then trust one person. Marcus held her gaze. Trust me. Something feels wrong, you call. 3 a.m, bad feeling, doesn't matter. You call. Why would you do that? Disrupt your life for someone you barely know? Because Zoe made you cry, Marcus said simply. And the only people who cry when my daughter talks about good things are people who've forgotten what good things feel like. That means you're not too far gone. That means you're worth saving. He walked away before she could respond, gathering Zoe and her pencils and her homework into his arms with practiced ease. The little girl waved goodbye over her father's shoulder. Victoria waved back and stood alone in the lot as the light faded. She opened her phone. Notes app. New page. She typed, "Good things." Underneath, 1. My mother's hands braiding my hair. Then, 2. People who fix broken things. She stared at it. 2 items. Just 2 good things in a life that should have had hundreds. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Got her home safe. Stay vigilant. M. Victoria felt warmth bloom in her chest. She added a 3rd item. 3. People who check on you without being asked. She called an Uber and climbed in, giving her address to a driver who didn't know her and didn't care. As they pulled away from the shop, Victoria looked back one more time at the faded sign and the ordinary cars in the ordinary lot. She thought about what it would be like to have an ordinary life. To worry about oil changes instead of assassins. To hold someone's hand and feel safe instead of powerful. She wondered if it was too late to learn. Her phone buzzed with a stock alert. She dismissed it without reading. For the first time in 15 years, she didn't care. She opened her Notes app instead, stared at her 3 items, and made a decision. She didn't know who was trying to kill her. Didn't know if Marcus could help her solve it. Didn't know if she could become someone who deserved saving. But she was going to try. Because somewhere in Seattle, a little girl with a broken heart was coloring pictures and checking exits and believing that good people could win. And Victoria Ashford was tired of being the villain in her own story. The call came at 2:17 in the morning. Victoria was still awake, still cross-referencing employee records with parking garage security logs at the small hotel desk, when her phone lit up with Marcus's number. Her heart jumped before she could stop it. Late-night calls meant emergencies, meant something wrong, meant the kind of news that changes the shape of your life. "What happened?" she answered, without greeting. "I need you to come to the shop." Marcus's voice was tight, controlled in the way people get when they're forcing themselves not to panic. "Right now." "Is Zoe?" "Zoe's fine. She's with my neighbor." A pause. "Someone broke into the shop tonight. They went straight for the balcony." Victoria's blood went cold. "They didn't steal anything," Marcus continued. "Didn't touch anything else. Walked past a Porsche and a Ferrari and went straight for your car. And Victoria, they knew exactly what they were looking for. This wasn't random." She was already grabbing her coat. "I'm coming. Don't touch anything." "Already gave that speech to the cops. They're not happy about it, but they're waiting. 20 minutes. She made it in 15. Broke every traffic law Seattle had, and didn't care. The shop was lit up with police lights, red and blue painting the old brick walls. Crime scene tape across the entrance, officers taking statements. Victoria parked the loaner illegally and walked straight through the perimeter like barriers were suggestions for other people. Marcus stood near the open bay door, talking to a woman in a detective's coat. When he saw Victoria, something in his face relaxed. Just barely, but she caught it. "Ms. Ashford," the detective flipped open a notebook. "Detective Brianna Cole, I understand your vehicle was targeted." "It was. What did they do?" "That's what we're determining. Mr. Turner seems to think you can help us understand what they were after. Can I see it? Cole hesitated, then nodded. Don't touch anything. Victoria walked into the bay with Marcus beside her. The Valkyrie looked untouched. No broken glass, no visible damage. But the area around it was chaos. Tools scattered, diagnostic equipment pulled from the walls, Marcus's laptop on the ground with a cracked screen. They came through the back door, Marcus said quietly. Cut the lock. Ignored every other car. Went straight for yours. Pulled up the diagnostic logs, accessed the computer system, and tried to download from the vehicle's memory. Tried? I installed a secondary security protocol after I found the spyware. Anyone accessing the system without credentials gets locked out after 3 attempts. They tried 4. That triggered an alarm. Called my phone and the police automatically. Victoria looked at him. You installed a security system on my car without telling me? I installed it to keep someone from finishing what they started. And good thing, or they'd have everything they needed. Everything they needed for what? To erase their tracks. Remove the evidence of the original hack. Make the fire look like an accident so nobody investigates further. Marcus gestured at the scattered equipment. They were cleaning up Victoria. Which means whatever they're planning, they're not done. Detective Cole had followed them in. Mr. Turner, you mentioned spyware in the vehicle. You still have that evidence? Backed up on 3 separate drives in 3 separate locations. Marcus pulled out his phone and opened a folder of screenshots and logs. I can provide copies. This is evidence of multiple felonies, Cole said. Hacking, stalking, attempted murder. Alleged attempted murder, Marcus corrected flatly. There's nothing alleged about wires that were deliberately stripped and twisted to cause a fire. I've documented everything. Every modification, every trace of the original hack. Someone is trying very hard to kill Ms. Ashford, Detective. And they're not going to stop. Cole looked at Victoria. Do you have any idea who might want to harm you? Victoria thought about the list. 37 names. Several ideas. None I can prove. Then come to the station tomorrow. Full statement. Cole closed her notebook. In the meantime, Mr. Turner, we need to process this scene. Shop's closed until we're done. How long? Day, maybe 3. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he nodded. And Ms. Ashford, Cole turned to her. Increase your personal security. These people broke into a commercial building with an alarm system. They're not amateurs. The officers finished within 2 hours. By the time the last patrol car pulled away, the shop was empty, except for Victoria and Marcus, standing by the Valkyrie like 2 people at a bedside. I'm sorry, Marcus said. For what? You didn't break in. For not anticipating this. For not moving the car somewhere safer. He rubbed his face, exhaustion bleeding through. Finding the spyware should have told me they'd come back. They had to. I should have. You installed security that stopped them. You called the police. You probably just saved my life again, Marcus. Maybe. Or maybe I just delayed things. Don't say that. Why not? Whoever's doing this has resources, skills, motivation, and we still don't know who they are. He looked at the car, at the crime scene tapes still on the floor. I stopped them tonight. What about tomorrow? Next week? How long before they find a way through? Victoria heard the fear in his voice. Not for himself, for her. Then we figure it out faster, she said. We go through that list, every name, find them before they try again. Victoria, that could take months. Then what do you suggest? That I hide? Give up everything I've built? I suggest you stay alive long enough for us to catch them. It's not about winning or losing, Marcus's voice hardened. You know the difference between you and your car? Your car I can rebuild, replace parts, make it better than new. But you? He shook his head. You only get one life, Victoria. One. And if someone takes it, there's no repair. You're just gone. The words hit somewhere deep, a place she kept locked. I know that, she whispered. Do you? Because you're standing here arguing about winning like this is a board meeting instead of your life. He stepped closer. I've watched my daughter code twice. Held her hand while doctors restarted her heart. Sat in waiting rooms at 3 a.m, wondering if she'd see sunrise. You know what I learned? What? That life doesn't care about winning. It doesn't care about being strong or right or refusing to back down. It just cares whether you're still breathing at the end. His voice cracked. And I'm trying very hard to make sure you keep breathing, Victoria. But I can't do it alone. I need you to care about staying alive as much as you care about not losing. Victoria felt tears coming. For the third time in 2 weeks, a record she hadn't approached in 15 years. I don't know how to run from fights, she admitted. Then don't run. But don't stand still and make yourself easy to hit. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. I keep coming back to the same question. Who profits from your death? Not just who hates you. Who gets something tangible the minute you're gone? Victoria's mind started working. Succession plans, board protocols, share distribution. My COO, she said slowly. Grant Whitfield. He's next in line for CEO. Been pushing for more control for 3 years. Arguing to the board that I'm too aggressive, that the company needs steadier leadership. Does he have technical skills? Engineering? Computers? No, he's finance. MBA from Wharton. Then he'd need help. Someone who could hack a car's computer system. His chief of staff, Victoria said, pieces clicking together with sickening clarity. Ryan Kessler, MIT graduate. Worked at Lockheed Martin doing cybersecurity before joining Ashford Dynamics. He has the skills. And through Grant, he has access to my schedule, my building, probably my parking garage. Marcus typed rapidly on his phone. Motive. Grant wants your job. Capability. Ryan has the skills. Opportunity. Both have inside access. What we need is proof. How? We make them panic. Marcus looked up, something calculating in his eyes. They broke in tonight because they needed to cover their tracks. That means they're worried. They think I found something that can identify them. If we let them believe that's true, that I'm close to proving who did it, they'll make a mistake. Or they'll come for you. That's why we'll be ready. We set a trap. Spread word that I've cracked the case, have evidence, arrests imminent, make it impossible for them to ignore. You want to use my car as bait. I want to use your car to end this. The Valkyrie's still here, still the key to everything. If Grant thinks the evidence is about to go to the police, he'll have to act. Send Ryan, maybe come himself. Either way, we'll be waiting. With Detective Cole? With cameras, with witnesses, with police ready to move. Marcus's voice was steady. It's risky. Smart people might see through it. But people who think they're about to get caught make desperate choices. Desperate people make mistakes. Victoria thought about it, weighed the risk against spending the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. Okay, she said. Let's do it. What do you need from me? Stay hidden. Stay safe. Trust me. Can I ask you something? Yeah. You said earlier, you said you couldn't watch another person you care about die. Another person. She held his gaze. You meant Danny. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, she had a brain aneurysm. Perfectly healthy, 31 years old. Went to sleep one night and didn't wake up. Zoe was 3. His voice was flat, the way voices get when the pain is too deep for inflection. I found her in the morning, still warm, still looked like she was sleeping. Marcus. I promised her at the funeral that I'd always do the right thing, even when it was hard, even when it cost me. He met her eyes. Keeping you alive is the right thing, Victoria, and I don't break promises. Not to her, not to anyone. Victoria wanted to say something adequate, something that matched the weight of what he'd just given her. But there were no words for this. So she just said, I trust you. Good. I'll call you when it's done. Be careful. If I'm right about Grant, he won't go down quietly. I used to design systems that put satellites in orbit. I think I can handle one ambitious executive. She almost smiled. Almost. The next morning, Marcus set things in motion. He called Detective Cole first, explained the plan, got her reluctant agreement to provide backup. Then he called Eddie and asked him to spread word through every mechanic shop and body place in Seattle. Marcus Turner had cracked the Montgomery case wide open. Proof of corporate sabotage. Arrests coming. In a community as tight as Seattle's automotive repair world, gossip moved faster than electricity. By noon, everyone knew. By 2, the business district had heard. By 4, Grant Whitfield was making phone calls. Marcus spent the afternoon preparing. He drove Zoe to Mrs. Rodriguez's house with instructions he'd never had to give before. Don't let anyone in. Don't answer questions. Anything feels wrong, you call 911 first, then me. Marcus, you're scaring me, the old woman said. Good. Scared keeps people careful. He knelt down in front of Zoe. She was holding Mr. Patches tight against her chest, her eyes too wide, too knowing. Daddy, are you going to be okay? I'm going to be fine, baby. Promise? Promise. I'll be back before bedtime. That's what you always say when you're scared. Marcus pulled her into a hug and held on until his arms ached. This little girl, who could read him better than any diagnostic tool, who knew when he was lying because she'd spent her whole short life learning to read the adults around her for signs of danger. I love you, Zoe. I love you too, Daddy. Be brave. Brave people are just scared people who keep going. He kissed her forehead and walked out before she could see his eyes. Detective Cole positioned plainclothes officers at 3 points. One in the pho restaurant next door. One in a car down the street. One inside the shop, pretending to pick up a vehicle. Hidden cameras in the rafters. Audio recording. The trap was set. Night fell. The other mechanics went home. The neighborhood settled into its evening rhythm. Marcus sat in the office with the lights off, watching the camera feeds on his repaired laptop, and waited. At 8:17, the back door lock clicked. Marcus watched the screen as a figure slipped through. Tall, athletic, moving with confidence. He went straight for the Valkyrie, pulled out a laptop, connected it to the diagnostic port. Ryan Kessler. Marcus felt vindication burn hot in his chest. He'd been right. They'd been right. This was the man who'd hacked Victoria's car, who'd planted the spyware, who'd tried to make murder look like a mechanical failure. He waited. Let Ryan work. Let him incriminate himself thoroughly. The cameras captured everything: his face, his equipment, his hands on the car's system. Then the front door opened. Marcus's head snapped up. That wasn't the plan. The front was supposed to be locked. Grant Whitfield walked into the shop like he owned it. Expensive suit, even at this hour. The kind of man who dressed for power, the way soldiers dressed for war. Ryan, how much longer? Ryan looked up, startled. I told you to stay away. If someone sees you here... No one's going to see me. It's taking too long. It's not just files. Turner backed up everything. Server logs, diagnostic history, trace routes. He built a real case, Grant. We should cut our losses. Leave the country. Leave the country? Grant's voice turned icy. I've spent 3 years positioning myself for this. 3 years of smiling at that woman, playing the loyal number 2, waiting for my turn. I'm not running because some mechanic got lucky. This isn't lucky. He traced the data through our proxies. The trail leads right back to us. The trail leads to nothing without the physical evidence. Grant gestured at the Valkyrie. Once we destroy that, it's a mechanic's word against ours. Who do you think the board believes? A black guy who fixes trucks, or the COO of a Fortune 500 company? Marcus felt those words hit like a fist, not because they surprised him, because they confirmed what he'd always known, that in Grant Whitfield's world, Marcus wasn't a threat, because Marcus wasn't a person. He was a category, a dismissal, a man whose testimony wouldn't matter because of the color of his skin. "Grant, this is insane," Ryan said, his voice climbing. "We already tried to kill her twice. How many more?" "As many as it takes." Grant reached into his coat and pulled out a gun. Everything in the room changed. Detective Cole's voice crackled in Marcus's earpiece. "All units, suspect is armed. Move in carefully. Turner, stay where you are. Do not engage." Marcus should have listened. The smart move was to stay hidden. Let the professionals handle it. Go home to Zoe. Keep his promise. But Grant was pointing that gun at Ryan now, and Marcus could see where this was heading. Grant wasn't here to destroy evidence. He was here to destroy the evidence and the witness. Pin everything on a dead man. Walk away clean. "You know what the problem is, Ryan?" Grant said, almost conversationally. "You're sloppy. Always have been. Bad proxies. Digital fingerprints everywhere. When the police investigate your suicide, tragic, a disturbed employee acting alone, they'll find everything they need to close the case. Grant, please. You should have been more careful." Marcus walked out of the office. He didn't run, didn't shout, just walked into the service bay, his boots steady on the concrete, making no effort to hide. Both men spun toward him. Ryan's face went white. Grant's expression hardened into something cold and reptilian. "Mr. Turner." Grant kept the gun level, shifting it between Ryan and Marcus. "I was hoping we wouldn't have to involve you." "Yeah, well, I get involved when people break into my shop." Marcus kept his voice conversational, calm, the way he talked to Zoe when she was scared and needed to believe everything was fine. "Twice in 1 week. You're persistent." "It's not personal. You're just collateral." "Funny. Feels personal from where I'm standing." "Walk away, Mr. Turner. This doesn't concern you. Go home to your daughter. Forget everything you saw." "Can't do that, Grant." "Why not? What is Victoria Ashford to you? She looked at you like you were dirt on her shoe the first time she walked in here. She kicked your creeper. She wouldn't shake your boss's hand." Grant smiled, and it was the coldest thing Marcus had ever seen. "She doesn't care about you. She needed a mechanic, and you were convenient. That's all people like us are to people like her." "Maybe," Marcus said, "but that's not why I'm standing here." "Then why?" "Because you pointed a gun at a man in my shop. Because you tried to kill a woman who doesn't deserve to die. Because my daughter is sitting at a neighbor's house right now, wondering if her father's coming home, and I promised her I would. And I don't break promises." Grant stared at him. Then he laughed, short, sharp, dismissive. "That's very noble, Mr. Turner. Very touching. The single black father with the sick kid standing up to the big bad corporation. They'll make a movie about you." "They might. But here's the thing about movies." Grant raised the gun toward Marcus. "They don't always end the way you want. Neither do corporate coups." Marcus saw Grant's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the decision form behind his eyes, saw the exact moment Grant Whitfield chose murder over mercy. And Marcus moved. Not toward cover, not away, forward. He closed the distance in 2 strides and hit Grant from the side just as the gun fired. The sound was a cannon blast in the enclosed space, echoing off concrete and steel. A second shot cracked off as they went down together. Ryan screamed, fell, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. The first shot had missed clean. The second had winged him. Marcus and Grant hit the floor hard. Grant was strong, fueled by 3 years of ambition and the desperation of a man watching his plan collapse. But Marcus had spent those same 3 years lifting a daughter who needed carrying, moving engines that weighed more than both of them, staying awake through nightmares because sleep meant not watching Zoe breathe. He had the kind of strength that came from necessity, from love, from the absolute refusal to leave his daughter fatherless. He pinned Grant's wrist to the concrete and slammed it once, twice, until the gun skittered free across the floor. "All units, move! Move now!" Police burst through both doors, weapons drawn, shouting commands that blurred together. Officers pulled Marcus off Grant, cuffed the COO face down on the floor. Paramedics appeared around Ryan. Detective Cole was there, her badge catching the light, taking control with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times. Marcus sat on the concrete. His hands were shaking so badly, he couldn't have held a wrench. Adrenaline, fear, the delayed understanding of how close he'd just come to dying, to never walking through Zoe's bedroom door again, to becoming another promise broken. "You okay?" Cole crouched beside him. "Yeah." His voice shook. "Ryan needs the ambulance." Already on it, she looked at the scene. Blood on the floor, the gun in an evidence bag. Grant Whitfield, silent, in handcuffs. "That was incredibly stupid, Turner. You could have been killed." "I know." "Then why?" Marcus thought about Zoe and her lists, about Victoria and her spark plug, about Danny's voice telling him to always do the right thing. "Because someone had to, and I was here." Cole studied him, then nodded like that answer made sense. "We'll need your full statement, but make your call first." Marcus pulled out his phone with trembling fingers and called Victoria. She answered before the first ring finished. "Tell me you're okay." "I'm okay. It's over." "What happened?" "They came, both of them. Grant had a gun. He was going to kill Ryan and frame him for everything." Marcus took a breath that rattled in his chest. "Police got them both. Grant's in cuffs. Ryan's wounded but alive." "It's over, Victoria." He heard her exhale, long, shaky, the sound of someone releasing weight they'd been carrying for weeks. "You're sure you're not hurt?" "I'm fine, little shaken up." "Marcus," her voice broke on his name. "You could have died." "I know." "For me. You could have died for me." "Not just for you." He leaned his head back against the wall. "For Zoe. For every person Grant would have hurt if nobody stopped him. For the mechanic he called collateral. For the world my daughter has to grow up in." He closed his eyes. "I didn't do it for you, Victoria. I did it because it was right." Silence on the line. Then, very quietly, "That's the same thing." Marcus didn't have an answer for that, so he just said, "Come to the shop. Not now. Wait until I text you it's clear. There's something I need to give you." "What?" "You'll see." He hung up and sat on the cold floor of his shop while officers processed the scene around him, while paramedics wheeled Ryan Kessler out on a stretcher, while Grant Whitfield was loaded into the back of a police car with his expensive suit and his ruined future. Marcus watched it all and felt nothing but tired. The kind of tired that goes past your bones into wherever your soul keeps its reserves. He thought about calling Mrs. Rodriguez, telling her he was safe. But first, he just needed 1 minute. 1 minute of sitting still and breathing and knowing he was alive. 1 minute of being grateful for air in his lungs and a daughter waiting at home and a world that still had people worth protecting. He took that minute. Then he picked up his phone and texted Victoria. "Clear. Come when you're ready." Then he texted Mrs. Rodriguez. "Coming home soon. Kiss Zoe for me." Then he put his phone down, put his face in his hands, and let himself shake. Victoria arrived at 1:20 in the morning. She'd driven too fast in the loaner Mercedes, running red lights on empty streets, gripping the wheel so hard her knuckles ached. The whole way there she kept hearing Marcus's voice. "I'm okay, little shaken up," and not believing it. People who were okay didn't sound like that. People who were okay didn't have that tremor underneath their words, the one that said the body was still catching up to what the brain already knew, that it had almost ended tonight. The shop was quiet now, crime scene tape still on the floor, the bay doors open to let the night air chase out whatever ghosts the last few hours had left behind. She parked and walked in, and it took her a moment to find him. Marcus was sitting on the floor next to the Valkyrie, back against the tire, head tipped back, eyes closed. His hands rested on his knees, and even from across the bay, Victoria could see them shaking. She stopped walking. Not because she didn't know what to do. Victoria Ashford always knew what to do. But because looking at this man who'd tackled an armed executive to the ground to protect her, who'd risked leaving his daughter fatherless because he'd made a promise, she realized she didn't have a playbook for this. No strategy, no leverage, no angle. Just a man on a cold floor who'd almost died for her. "Marcus." He opened his eyes. They were red, not from crying, from the kind of exhaustion that goes past sleep into something chemical. But when he saw her, something in his face changed. Not a smile, something deeper. Relief, maybe. Proof that the thing he'd fought for was still standing. "You look terrible," Victoria said. "You should see the other guy." He almost laughed. Almost. "Grant's suit got pretty messed up when I put him on the floor." "Are you really okay?" "Define okay." Victoria walked over and sat down next to him, on the floor, in her cashmere and her good slacks, right there on the cold concrete that still had faint smudges of Ryan Kessler's blood near the far wall. She didn't care. She sat close enough that their shoulders touched. "I was in the hotel room," she said quietly, staring at my phone, waiting. And I kept thinking, if something happens to him, it's my fault. If he dies in that shop because I asked him to help me, because I was too proud to go to the police from the beginning, because I dragged the single father into my war. Victoria. I couldn't breathe, Marcus. I literally could not breathe. And I realized, I've never been afraid for another person before. Not like that. Not the kind of fear that makes your whole body go cold. "Welcome to my Tuesday nights," Marcus said. "That's what it feels like every time Zoe coughs." They sat in silence for a moment. The shop hummed with the aftermath of violence. That strange, heavy stillness that settles after something terrible has been barely survived. "I need to show you something," Marcus said. He stood, offered his hand. Victoria took it and let him pull her up. His grip was warm and steady, despite the shaking she'd seen minutes ago. He led her to the Valkyrie and popped the hood, reached deep into the engine bay, past the carbon fiber and exotic metals, and pulled out a wooden box. Small, hand-carved, the kind of thing that took hours of careful, patient work. "What is this?" Victoria asked. "Open it." She lifted the lid. Inside were 6 items, each one nestled carefully in place. The spark plug, the original one he'd given her that first night. She recognized the corrosion pattern, the weight of it. A photograph, Zoe holding Mr. Patches, grinning with her whole face, gap-toothed and fierce. A small notebook with "Good Things" written on the cover in a child's careful handwriting. A key, a folded piece of paper, and a ring of gears. Tiny, intricate, welded together into something that looked like art. Victoria's hands were trembling. "Marcus, I don't—" "The spark plug you know about." He pointed to each item as he spoke. Fuel, air, spark. The basics. That hasn't changed. "The photo is from Zoe. She picked it herself. Said you needed a reminder of people who think you're brave. Her words exactly." "The notebook, also Zoe. She said 3 things on your list isn't enough. You need at least 20 to have a proper list. She was very firm about this." Victoria touched the notebook's cover, feeling the indentations where Zoe had pressed hard with her pencil. "The key," Marcus said, and his voice shifted. Heavier now. Careful. "Eddie's retiring next year. He offered to sell me the shop. I told him I couldn't afford it." He met her eyes. "Then I realized maybe I didn't have to do it alone." "Marcus, I'm not asking for your money, Victoria. I'm asking if you want to be a partner. You've got business skills I'll never have. I've got technical knowledge you'll never need. Together, we could build something that actually matters. Not a corporation, not an empire. A place that fixes things. Cars, yes, but people too. A place where single parents get their trucks repaired for what they can afford. Where kids like Zoe can see that the world has good things in it. Where people who've been broken down can get rebuilt." Victoria stared at the key in the box. A real key. To a real place. Worth less than the watch on her wrist, and somehow more valuable than anything she'd ever been offered. "Why would you want me as a partner?" she heard herself say. "I'm the Ice Queen. The Barracuda. I destroy things, Marcus. That's what I do. That's all I've ever done." "You destroyed the people trying to kill you. You built a fortune from nothing. You survived 15 years in a world that wanted to break you." Marcus touched her hand, not grabbing it, just touching. "You're not ice, Victoria. You're just someone who forgot how to melt. But I've seen you with Zoe. I've seen you cry. I've seen you trust me when every instinct you had screamed not to. That's not ice. That's the bravest thing I've ever watched anyone do." Victoria blinked hard. "What's the paper?" "Read it." She unfolded it with unsteady fingers. The handwriting was small, deliberate, in colored pencil. Zoe's handwriting. "Things Miss Ashford is good at. 1. Being brave even when she's scared. 2. Having a really cool car. 3. Listening when Daddy talks even though he talks a lot. 4. Making lists even though she doesn't know how yet. 5. Being a princess even though she says she's not." Victoria laughed. The sound came out broken and wet and completely uncontrolled. "She really thinks I'm a princess." "She thinks you're someone worth believing in. And Zoe doesn't give that to many people." Marcus picked up the last item, the gear ring. "This one's mine. I made it last week, before everything went crazy. It's beautiful. It's supposed to be a promise." "What kind of promise?" "That broken things can be beautiful. That what's damaged can still work. That sometimes the best repairs don't fix what's wrong. They just make it strong enough to keep going." He set the gear ring in her palm and closed her fingers around it. "You don't have to change who you are, Victoria. You just have to let someone help you carry it." Victoria looked at the box, at all 6 items laid out, like a vocabulary for things she'd never learned to say. Love. Trust. Partnership. Home. She looked at this man who'd given up satellites for his daughter, and nearly given up his life for a woman who'd kicked his creeper. "I don't know how to be someone's partner," she whispered. "In business or anything else. I don't know how to share control. I don't know how to trust someone with decisions. I don't know how to be anything except alone." "Then learn. Start with the shop. Start with being the person who handles the books while I handle the engines. Start with coffee on Sunday mornings at my kitchen table with me and Zoe." His voice was gentle but sure. "Start with not being alone anymore. What if I'm bad at it?" "You will be, at first." "So will I," Marcus smiled. "But we'll figure it out. That's what people do when they care enough to try." Victoria looked at the gear ring in her hand. Broken pieces welded into something whole. She thought about her penthouse, 63 floors of emptiness. Her corner office, where she'd won every battle and lost something she couldn't name. Her life, which looked like victory from the outside and felt like a machine running on 2 cylinders. Fuel and air, maybe, but no spark. Not for years. "Yes," she said. Marcus blinked. "Yes?" "Yes to the shop. Yes to the partnership. Yes to Sunday coffee." She put the gear ring on her finger. It fit like it had been measured. "Yes to not doing this alone anymore." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Marcus exhaled, long and slow, like he'd been holding his breath for longer than tonight. Maybe for years. "There's one more thing," he said. "What?" "Zoe also wants to know if you'll come to her doctor's appointment on Wednesday. She has a cardiac checkup. She's scared, and she asked if the princess could come hold her hand." Victoria's chest cracked open. Right there, standing in a garage that still smelled like gunsmoke, holding a box full of handmade gifts, she felt the last 15 years of armor fall away like rust off a wire. "Tell her I'll be there," Victoria said. "Tell her princesses always show up when someone's scared." She kissed him then. Not planned, not calculated, not a power move or a negotiation tactic. She just leaned forward and pressed her lips to his, and it was quick and gentle and tasted like salt because she was crying again and didn't care. Marcus kissed her back, and for one moment in that empty shop, with evidence markers still on the floor and dawn threatening at the edges of the sky, Victoria Ashford felt something she hadn't felt since her mother braided her hair and told her she'd be strong enough to survive anything. Safe. Just safe. Not powerful, not untouchable, not the Ice Queen or the Barracuda or the youngest CEO or the richest woman in any room. Just a person, standing next to another person, feeling safe. "I should go," she said finally. "You need to get home to Zoe, and I need to figure out how to explain to my board that I'm investing in a repair shop." "You don't owe anyone an explanation. It's your life, Victoria." "That's going to take some getting used to. The idea that my life is actually mine." "You've got time." She looked at him. Really looked. The way she'd learned to in these impossible weeks. Saw the exhaustion, the fear he'd been carrying, the grief for a wife who died too young, the love for a daughter who might not grow old. Saw a man who'd been broken in ways that would have destroyed most people and had somehow welded himself back together into something functional and good. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight, for the box, for all of it." "Don't thank me yet. We haven't opened the shop." "I meant for seeing something in me worth all this, worth the risk." Marcus was quiet for a beat. Then, "The first night, when I gave you the spark plug, you could have thrown it away. You could have forgotten about it, about me, about everything. But you kept it. You put it on your desk, and you came back." He touched her face, just barely. "That's how I knew." "Knew what?" "That you weren't as cold as you wanted everyone to think. Cold people don't keep spark plugs. Cold people don't cry when little girls talk about good things. Cold people don't sit on the floor of a garage with a mechanic when they could be in a penthouse alone. Maybe I'm just stupid, Victoria said. Maybe, but I prefer brave. She laughed, a real one, full and unexpected. Then she gathered the box, held it against her chest like something precious, and walked toward the door. Victoria, she turned. Go home. Sleep. Actually sleep. Not that thing you do where you stare at spreadsheets until your eyes bleed. He almost smiled. Tomorrow we start building something. I want you rested for it. Is that an order? It's a request. From your future business partner. Fine. But Marcus, the next time someone points a gun at you, don't run toward it. Can't promise that. Try. I'll try. She drove back to her penthouse as the sky turned gray at the edges. The city was waking up. Delivery trucks, early commuters, the machinery of normal life grinding into motion. Victoria rode the elevator up 63 floors, walked into her apartment, and set the wooden box on her desk next to the spark plug that had been sitting there for 3 weeks. She opened the notebook Zoe had given her. First page. Miss Ashford's list of good things, written in careful colored pencil. Victoria picked up a pen. 1. My mother's hands braiding my hair. 2. People who fix broken things. 3. People who answer their phone at 2 a.m. 4. Little girls who think everyone deserves a list. 5. A mechanic who designs traps to catch bad guys. 6. The feeling of not being alone anymore. 7. Being called a princess by someone who means it. 8. A key to a place that matters. 9. The sound of someone saying, "I'm okay," and meaning it. 10. Knowing that tomorrow, for the first time, I'm building something instead of destroying it. She filled 3 pages before she stopped, amazed at how many good things existed when you actually looked. Her apartment didn't feel empty. Her view didn't feel isolating. Her life didn't feel like a machine running on fumes. She picked up her phone to set an alarm and saw a text from Marcus, sent 11 minutes ago. Zoe woke up when I got home. Told her the princess said yes to the shop. She screamed so loud Mrs. Rodriguez called to make sure everything was okay. Everything is okay. Everything is really okay. M. Victoria read it twice, then 3 times. Then she held her phone against her chest and closed her eyes and felt the warmth of those words spreading through her, like current through a wire. She set the alarm for 7. She had calls to make, a board to face, a life to rearrange. But for the first time, the rearranging didn't feel like loss. It felt like repair. She fell asleep holding the gear ring, and she dreamed about a shop with its doors wide open, and a little girl laughing, and a man with steady hands who fixed everything he touched, including, somehow, impossibly, her. Across the city, Marcus Turner stood in his daughter's doorway and watched her sleep. Mr. Patches on one side, the blanket kicked to the foot of the bed because Zoe ran hot, even with a heart that didn't pump right. The monitors glowed green. Steady rhythm. Normal oxygen. All the numbers that meant alive. "She said yes, baby girl," he whispered. "The princess said yes." Zoe stirred, mumbled something, settled. Marcus checked her pulse out of habit. Strong, regular, miraculous. Then he went to his room and sat on the bed and felt the full weight of what had happened and what was about to happen. He'd almost been shot tonight, almost left Zoe alone, almost broken the most important promise he'd ever made. And he'd done it for a woman he'd known for 3 weeks. A woman who'd kicked his creeper and looked at him like he was nothing, and then looked at him like he was everything, and then looked at him like he was a question she was finally ready to answer. He picked up his phone and opened his camera roll to the photo Zoe had chosen for Victoria. His daughter's gap-toothed grin, Mr. Patches squished against her cheek, eyes bright with the particular joy of a child who has decided the world is good, despite all evidence to the contrary. "I'm doing the right thing, Danny," he said to his dead wife, to the empty room, to the memory of a woman who'd made him promise to never stop trying. "I'm scared as hell, but I'm doing it." He lay down, closed his eyes, and for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Turner fell asleep without checking the monitors one more time, without setting an alarm for every 2 hours to make sure Zoe was breathing, without lying awake calculating how many months of medical bills he could cover before the fund ran dry. He just slept. Because somewhere across the city, someone was awake and caring. Someone was making lists and making plans and making room in her life for a mechanic and his daughter. Someone was holding a gear ring and learning that the best repairs are the ones that don't fix what's broken. They just make it strong enough to keep going. And that was enough. For the first time in a very long time, that was enough. The first Monday morning of Turner Ashford Automotive, the coffee machine broke. Marcus was under a Honda Accord at 7:15 when he heard Victoria's voice from the front office, carrying the unmistakable tone of a woman who had commanded boardrooms and toppled competitors, now being defeated by a Mr. Coffee. Marcus, this thing is making us sound like a dying animal and producing what appears to be hot brown water. This is not coffee. This is an insult." He slid out from under the Accord, wiping his hands. "Did you put the filter in?" "There's a filter?" "Victoria, you ran a Fortune 500 company." "I ran a Fortune 500 company that had people whose job it was to know where the coffee filters go. I was not one of those people." Eddie Morales, who'd agreed to stay on for 6 months to help with the transition, was leaning against the doorframe laughing so hard his shoulders shook. "Oh, this is going to be good," he said. "This is going to be real good." That first week was chaos. Victoria had never worked in a space smaller than 1,800 square feet. She kept bumping into tool cabinets. She wore the wrong shoes every single day, until Marcus left a pair of steel-toed boots by the office door, with a note that said, "Your Majesty." She overhauled the billing system in 48 hours, and accidentally deleted 3 months of customer records, which Eddie recovered from a backup she didn't know existed. But she showed up. Every morning, before the mechanics arrived, Victoria was there, learning the inventory system, reorganizing the supply chain, negotiating with parts distributors who'd been overcharging Eddie for years and didn't know what hit them when a woman who'd closed billion-dollar deals started asking why a brake pad cost 40% more than the manufacturer's suggested price. "You just saved us $11,000 a year on parts alone," Marcus told her at the end of the second week. "That's a Tuesday for me," Victoria said. Then she paused. "Was a Tuesday for me. Now it's apparently the highlight of my new career." "You miss it? The old life?" Victoria thought about it. Really thought. "I miss being good at something. I miss knowing every answer. Here, I don't know anything. I can't tell a camshaft from a crankshaft, and everyone's too polite to laugh at me, except Eddie, who isn't polite about anything." "You're learning." "I'm drowning." "Same thing, at first." Marcus handed her a wrench. "Come on, I'll teach you how to change oil. Every partner in an automotive shop should know how to change oil. I have an MBA from Stanford." "Great, that'll be really useful when you're under a Corolla." She followed him into the bay, and by lunch she changed her first oil filter, gotten grease in her hair, cracked a nail she would have once considered a catastrophe, and felt more alive than she had in a decade. Wednesday came, Zoe's cardiac appointment. Victoria arrived at the hospital 20 minutes early, which Marcus told her later was the most Victoria Ashford thing she'd ever done. She was standing in the waiting room when they walked in, Marcus holding Zoe's hand, Zoe holding Mr. Patch's, both of them looking like they'd done this walk 1,000 times. Because they had. "You came!" Zoe's face lit up. "I told you I would. Daddy said you might have a meeting. I canceled it." Zoe looked at her father. "See? I told you she'd come." Princesses always come. The appointment was routine. Blood work, echo, EKG. The cardiologist, Dr. Pham, was a small woman with kind eyes and the practiced gentleness of someone who delivered bad news for a living. "Her ejection fraction is holding steady," Dr. Pham told Marcus outside the exam room while Zoe colored in a waiting area. "No significant deterioration since the last visit. The medication regimen is working." "For now," Marcus said. "For now," Dr. Pham agreed carefully. "Marcus, you know I can't predict timelines. Her heart is functioning at about 40% of normal capacity. That could hold for years. Or it could start declining tomorrow. What I can tell you is that she's on the transplant list, she's stable, and right now, today, she's okay." "And if she's not okay tomorrow?" "Then we deal with tomorrow when it comes." Victoria watched this exchange and saw something she'd never understood before. The particular courage of a parent who lives in permanent uncertainty. Not the sharp, decisive courage of boardrooms and business deals. The slow, grinding courage of waking up every morning, not knowing if your child will be alive at the end of it. In the car afterward, Zoe fell asleep in her booster seat within minutes, Mr. Patches crushed against her chest. Marcus drove in silence, his eyes checking the rear-view mirror every few seconds. Not for traffic, for his daughter's breathing. "How do you do it?" Victoria asked quietly. "Every day, not knowing." "I don't do it well," Marcus said. "I do it scared. I do it exhausted. I do it wrong half the time. But I do it. Because the alternative is giving up. And I can't give up on her." "You won't have to do it alone anymore." Marcus glanced at her. "Victoria, I mean it. Whatever happens with Zoe, appointments, emergencies, 3 a.m. hospital runs, I'm here. You don't have to carry this by yourself." He didn't say anything for a long time, just drove. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. Danny used to say that. Exact words. "You don't have to carry this by yourself." It was the last thing she told me before she went to sleep that night. He gripped the steering wheel. I haven't been able to hear those words without falling apart. Until right now. Victoria reached across and put her hand on his. He turned his palm up and held on. They drove the rest of the way in silence, connected by 10 interlaced fingers, and the understanding that some things don't need words. They just need someone willing to show up and stay. 3 months in, the shop had changed. Not just the name on the sign, Turner Ashford Automotive, painted fresh by a local artist who traded the work for a brake job. Everything had changed. Victoria created a program she called Second Gear. Free automotive training for people who needed second chances. Ex-convicts who couldn't find work. Single parents who needed flexible skills. Kids from rough neighborhoods who'd never been told they were good at anything. Marcus taught the technical side. Victoria handled the business curriculum. Budgeting, customer service, how to run a shop, how to turn wrenches into a living. The first class had 8 students. By the 3rd month, there was a waiting list. A reporter from the Seattle Times came to do a story. She expected the angle to be about the billionaire CEO slumming it in a garage. A feel-good piece about rich people playing at normal life. What she found was different. "This isn't charity," Victoria told her, standing in the bay with grease on her hands that she'd stopped trying to scrub off completely. "Charity is writing a check and walking away. This is showing up every day and doing the work. There's a difference. The reporter asked Marcus how a former aerospace engineer ended up running a community repair shop with a billionaire. She needed her car fixed, Marcus said. I needed a partner. Zoe needed more people on her list. It worked out. That's a bit of an oversimplification, isn't it? Most good things are simple, Marcus said. We just complicate them. The story ran on a Sunday. By Monday, Victoria's phone was ringing with investors and nonprofit foundations wanting to help expand the program. She took 3 calls, then turned her phone off and went back to helping a 17-year-old named Deshawn figure out why a Chevy Malibu was misfiring. You just ignored calls worth probably $2 million, Marcus said. They'll call back. Deshawn's Malibu won't fix itself. Marcus stared at her. Who are you? And what did you do with the Ice Queen? She melted. Keep up. That night, after the shop closed and the students went home, and Eddie left muttering about how the new generation didn't appreciate a properly organized tool wall, Marcus and Victoria sat on the tailgate of a pickup in the lot out back, sharing takeout from the pho restaurant next door. I called the hospital today, Marcus said between bites, about Zoe's transplant status. Victoria set down her chopsticks. And? She moved up the list. Not a lot, but some. Dr. Pham says if a match comes in the next year, she's in a strong position. That's good news. It's terrifying news. Good and terrifying at the same time. He stared at his food. A transplant means open-heart surgery, months of recovery, immunosuppression drugs for the rest of her life, risk of rejection, risk of... He stopped himself. Sorry, you asked if it was good news, and I turned it into a medical horror story. You turned it into the truth. That's different. Victoria took his hand. What does Zoe think? Zoe thinks she's getting a new heart, and then she can run as fast as the other kids at school. She's already planning which sports she wants to try. Soccer first, then maybe basketball because, and I quote, basketball players are tall, and I'm going to be tall like Daddy. Victoria laughed. She's not wrong about the tall part. She's not wrong about much. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who've stopped needing to fill every pause with words. I want to set up a medical fund, Victoria said, for Zoe. Whatever the transplant costs, whatever insurance doesn't cover, whatever she needs for the rest of her life. I want it handled. Victoria, I can't let you... You're not letting me do anything. I'm telling you what I'm doing. Her voice was firm, but warm. The voice of a woman who'd spent 15 years learning how to be immovable, and was now using that skill for something that mattered. You gave me a spark plug and told me people are just trying to keep their engines running. Well, Zoe's engine needs a new part, and I'm in a position to make sure she gets it. So that's what's happening. Argue with me, and you'll lose. You know that. Marcus looked at her for a long time. She watched the war in his eyes. Pride fighting gratitude. Independence wrestling with a desperate need to keep his daughter alive. I don't know how to accept this, he said quietly. Then learn. Someone smart once told me that's what you do when you don't know how to do something. You learn. He almost smiled. Sounds like a very wise mechanic. He has his moments. Marcus put his arm around her, and Victoria leaned into him, and they sat there on that tailgate, watching the last light fade from the Seattle sky. Two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way possible. A broken car, a kicked creeper, and the stubborn insistence that broken things were worth fixing. 6 months after Grant Whitfield's arrest, on a Saturday morning so sunny that half of Seattle didn't trust it, Victoria stood in front of 73 people in the parking lot of Turner Ashford Automotive and felt her hand shake. Not from fear, from something bigger. Thank you all for coming, she said into a microphone that Eddie had rigged up with extension cords and what she suspected was duct tape. 6 months ago, I walked into this shop as a customer. I was rude. I was arrogant. I kicked a man's creeper because he didn't respond fast enough for my schedule. Laughter from the crowd. Marcus, standing in the front row with Zoe on his shoulders, shook his head. That man fixed my car. Then he fixed my life. Then he showed me that everything I thought mattered, the money, the power, the corner office, was just noise. The signal was always here. In shops like this. In people like you. In the work we do with our hands and our hearts, when nobody's watching and nobody's paying us what it's worth. She looked at the faces in front of her. Mechanics who'd been with Eddie for years. Students from second gear. Deshaun, who'd passed his ASE certification last week. Maria, who'd left an abusive husband and was now the shop's best diagnostic tech. A dozen community members who'd become family. Today I'm announcing that Turner Ashford Automotive is expanding. 2 new locations, 40 new hires, a full nonprofit arm to provide free training and vehicle repair to anyone who needs it. She paused. And I'm also announcing my retirement as CEO of Ashford Dynamics. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Even Marcus looked surprised. They'd discussed this, but she hadn't told him she was announcing it today. I'll keep my board seat, Victoria continued, but my full-time work is here now, in this shop, with these people, building something that measures success differently than stock prices and quarterly earnings. She looked at Zoe, who was grinning from her perch on Marcus's shoulders. A very wise 8-year-old once told me that everyone needs a list of good things, and that you need at least 20 to have a proper list. Well, this shop, this community, you're all on my list. Every single one of you. The applause was real, not the polite, strategic applause of boardrooms. The messy, loud, genuine applause of people who meant it. Victoria felt it wash over her like something she'd been thirsty for her whole life without knowing it. Then Marcus put Zoe down, walked to the front, and stood beside Victoria. The crowd went quiet. Since we're making announcements, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I've got one too. He reached into his pocket. Victoria's heart stopped. He dropped to one knee, and 73 people inhaled at the same time. Victoria Ashford, 6 months ago, you walked into my shop and treated me like I was invisible. You looked at my skin and my clothes and my hands and decided I wasn't worth your time. He smiled up at her. And then you came back. And you kept coming back. And somewhere between the sabotage and the spark plugs and the worst coffee in Seattle, you became the best thing that ever happened to me and my daughter. He opened his hand. The ring was made of gears. Tiny, intricate, welded together with the precision of a man who'd once designed systems that put satellites in orbit. Different from the gear ring he'd given her before, this one had a small stone set in the center, held in place by interlocking teeth of metal. I can't give you diamonds, Marcus said. I can't give you penthouses or stock options or anything the old Victoria Ashford would have wanted. But I can give you this, a promise that I will spend every day fixing things beside you. Cars, people, the world. Whatever breaks, we fix it together. Zoe pushed through the crowd and stood next to her father. Say yes, she shouted. Daddy practiced this speech 11 times, and he kept messing up the middle part. The crowd erupted in laughter. Marcus closed his eyes. Zoe, baby, we talked about this. You said I could help. I said you could watch quietly. Quiet is boring. Say yes, Ms. Victoria. Say yes so we can be a family, and Daddy can stop being nervous because he's been weird all week. Victoria looked at Marcus on one knee, at Zoe beside him, bouncing on her light-up sneakers, at the crowd of people who'd become her world, at a shop that smelled like motor oil and honest work and second chances. She thought about who she'd been 6 months ago. A woman with a $3 million car and an empty penthouse, and 2 things on her list of good things. A woman who measured people by their net worth and dismissed anyone who couldn't be useful to her. A woman who kicked a man's creeper and called it a nudge. And she thought about who she was now. A woman with grease under her fingernails and a gear ring on a chain around her neck, and a list of good things that filled an entire notebook. A woman who'd learned that strength wasn't about being untouchable. It was about letting yourself be touched. A woman who'd been broken open by a little girl with a failing heart, and a father who fixed everything except himself. Yes, Victoria said. Yes to all of it. Yes to the shop and the work and the terrible coffee. Yes to hospital runs and Sunday mornings and teaching me how to change oil, even though I have an MBA. Yes to being a family. She pulled Marcus to his feet and kissed him while 73 people cheered, and Zoe squeezed between them and wrapped her arms around both their waists. I knew it, Zoe said. I knew princesses were real. That night, after the celebration wound down and the food was gone, and Eddie had given a speech that made everyone cry, including Eddie, Marcus and Victoria sat on the tailgate again. Zoe was asleep inside on the office couch, Mr. Patches and Mrs. Victoria Bear tucked under each arm. 11 times, Victoria said. What? You practiced the proposal 11 times? Zoe counted. Apparently I kept saying, the worst thing that ever happened to me, instead of the best thing. She thought that was hilarious. Victoria laughed and leaned against him. Above them, through a rare gap in Seattle's clouds, stars were visible. Marcus pointed up. See that bright one, just above the tree line? Yeah. That's a satellite I worked on. Well, not that specific one. You can't see the actual hardware from here. But the system I designed for its guidance package is up there. Has been for 9 years. Still working. Victoria looked up at the sky. Do you miss it? The aerospace work? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I used to think that was the most important thing I'd ever build. A system that guides a satellite